Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode one of the Down Under podcast. This is a new podcast featuring Cooper Lockman, Parker Lady, say hi,
Hello?
and James Godfrey, say hi as well.
Hello.
And as the episodes go on, you may notice that the different roles of our peoples are interchangeable and they swap around, and the reason is because, well, Parker will explain that to you.
So basically, we were placed as a research team in Australia, and we all were assigned different parts. There would be a host, a co host, and a questionee. The host will ask questions to the questionee, and they will answer based on what they research, and the co host may add some extra questions.
So for today's episode, I, Cooper Lockman, will be your host, and Parker Lady will be my co-host, say hi.
Hello?
And James Godfrey will be the questionee, say hi as well.
Hello.
In today's episode, we're going to be covering the culture of Australia. And the first point that we have is about Australia's penal colony. So, James, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, Australia was formed as a penal colony, it was a country of prisoners who were left there. They were expected to die, but instead they built a colony, and that's how Australia was founded.
Mm-hmm. Parker, is there anything else you'd like to elaborate on?
Well, I think it's kind of cool.
It is kind of epic, not gonna lie. Okay, on to the next point of the history through the ages. James, would you like to explain to us some of the major historical events in Australia's history?
Why, yes, I would. On May 13th, 1787, 11 ships sailed from Great Britain and stopped and founded Australia, where they found Aborigines. And on June 11th, 1788, the Queen's birthday is a public holiday for getting everyone together with family or watching sports, which started major traditions. On January 1st of 1801, Matthew Flinders was asked by the British government to map the coastline of Australia. At the time, Australia was called New Holland. Flinders suggested that it be called Australia, hence the name. July 15th, 1817, the Bank of New South Wales Westpac was established, meaning Australia was growing wealthier. On January 1st, 1851, Chinatown was established. It extends between Swanston and Spring Streets in the Melbourne Central Business District, and Chinese New Year and Moon festivals are celebrated here. On January 1st, now let me just say there's a lot of January 1sts. And on January 1st, 1854, Chinese and Europeans came to Australia in search of gold. And the Victorian Gold Rush, it was labeled. On April 1st of 1854, the University of Melbourne is established and enrolls students from all over the world. On January 1st, 1855, the Parliament House was constructed and made an important step for politics. On January 1st, 1889, the Women's Suffrage Society argued for women to have the same rights as men, and in 1894, women in Australia gained the right to vote. And that's the majority of it's a very important history.
All right, and the next topic for today's podcast, and thank you, James, for listing that very large list of historical events, is Aboriginals. So, James, would you like to cover some of this as well?
Yes, I would. Australia is the only continent today where Aboriginals hunt and gather. Aboriginals are basically people who have been around a very long time in Australia, so they know a lot of things about it. They know a lot. They're kind of like the historians of it. And the original Australians immigrated from Asia and Africa along the southern route.
Well, that just about covered the Aboriginals and the immigration topic. Parker, is there anything that you'd like to discuss?
I actually cannot think of anything. James covered that pretty well.
Yeah. And the next topic for today's episode is the religion of Australia. James, take it away.
Well, Cooper, Australia has two main religions, and that is Catholics and Christians, which is very similar to the USA.
Mm-hmm. Parker, is there anything that you'd like to cover?
Actually, Cooper, I cannot think of anything else to tag along with that. It's kind of basic, and James explained it pretty well.
That leads us on to our next point of today's episode, which is a pretty interesting one, that being Australia's music.
All right. Well, the music in Australia is traditional and indigenous music. Australian has all genres of music from folk to roots, blues, rock, pop, hip hop, and classical forms.
Mm-hmm. Park, is there anything that you'd like to cover with this?
Uh, Nothing other than there are some good Australian hits, such as the Chats. I tell ya.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're my favorite band.
All right, and the next topic of today's episode is going to be the activities and sports of Australia.
All right. Well, some of the main activities in Australia, tourism activities like skydiving, exploring the Great Barrier Reef, camping in places like Tasmania, a lot of surfing, whitewater rafting, exploring national parks, swimming with dolphins, and tiger moth flights. But they also have sports such as rugby and football and cricket.
Some of those activities down in Australia seem pretty extreme. Parker, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, I'd just like to explain a little more about the tiger moth flight. I looked a little bit into it, and it's a open cockpit airplane flight, so you get to see and smell all the places that you're flying over in Australia, and it looks pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look into it.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that about covers up the activities of Australia, and now on to the famous people of Australia, James.
All right, well, Australia, their people must be very talented. There's a lot. I'll list off a couple big ones here, such as Chris Hemsworth, Steve Irwin, Hugh Jackman, Bryn, Iggy Azalea, Rebel Wilson, Ben Simpsons, Keith Urban, Paul Hogan, Poppy Montgomery. There's a lot, but those are some of the
Yeah.
prominent ones.
Yeah.
Also, Bob
All right,
Marley.
and now. Mm-hmm.
Do not want to forget about him.
Yep. And now on to the probably peak of the whole podcast itself, the food and delicacies of Australia.
Yeah. Um, Australia has a lot of unique food. Some of the more famous ones are chicken parmesan, barbecue snags, lamingtons, a, a burgers, and it's called with the lot, and that's basically barbecued meat, salad, sauce, and occasionally pineapple, beetroot, and fried egg. There's pavolia, there's meat pies, barramundi, Vegemite, especially on toast, pumpkin soup, grilled kangaroo. And those are some of the most prominent ones.
Mm-hmm. Parker, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, Cooper, I don't know much about that topic, but I sure would like to try some Vegemite.
Mm-hmm. That'd be kind of interesting. All right, on to the final topic of today's episode. We're going to be comparing the Australia to the United States, James. How would you say that they size up?
They are very, very similar. They each have their own traditions. They both kind of rely on the same methods of running a country. They're vastly similar, and it's cool. But it's also new and exciting because of the different culture they have compared to other countries.
Yeah. And then also, some points that we bring up in later podcasts would help strengthen the comparison to the US. Parker, is there anything you want to add or before we wrap up?
Not really. It actually is a lot more like the USA than you'd think.
Hmm. Well, all right. That about wraps up episode 1 of the Down Under podcast. This has been Cooper Lockman, your host, with co-host Parker
Yep.
and the questionee James. And I'd like to thank you all for coming around and see you all for episode 2.
Hello, welcome back to the Down Under podcast. This is episode 2. Today we'll be discussing geography. I have with me my co-host Cooper Lockman. Say hello.
Howdy.
And my questionee Parker Lighty. Say hello.
Hi.
And I am James Godfrey. I will be the host for this podcast, and we will be discussing everything geography about Australia. So now to get right into it, Australia has a couple forms of transportation. They mainly rely on cars, but they also have a lot of trains. They don't have nearly as many planes as other countries. Parker, what is your opinion on these?
Well, James, I definitely think they need to invest into more aerial transport because of how big the country is. And let's say you're visiting a national park on one side of the country and you go get meet up with your family on the other side. You mostly have to drive the whole way back, which wastes a lot of gas.
I completely agree. Because the country is about 22,000 miles long, so
Yep.
that can be a bit of a drive. Cooper, do you have any insight on this?
No, I do not, James.
That sums it about up, I guess, for that. So now, in Australia, there are many geographical features, all of which are mysterious and beautiful in their own unique way, such as Mount Urlu, big rock in the middle of the desert. No one knows why it's there. It's awesome. And other things like the Great Barrier Reef as well. They're just booming with life, full of fish, full of coral. It's awesome. Parker, do you have any insight on this? Do you have any things you can provide us that you've seen?
Uh, yeah, like you said, all those places are very beautiful, and the Big Rock is pretty awesome. And the Great Barrier Reef is actually the biggest reef in the ocean, hence the name Great Barrier Reef.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're just a great place for tourists to come and view the country and a lot of its features.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the Great Barrier Reef has many other kinds of life, like sponges and sea stars, just tons of fish. It's great. It's awesome. I love it. There's also other things like the Murray Darling Basin. It's giant. It's great. And awesome tourist. Cooper, do you have any insight on this?
The only thing that I can say about Australia's natural features is that it's kind of wonky. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, they're very different from things like in the USA. All right. So now on to the next one. Let's talk about Tasmania first. Tasmania, little island off the side of Australia. It's a part of Australia. It's its own little province. Uh, do you wish to talk about this in brief context, Park?
Well, I mean, if you go there, you're going to be amazed by the mountains and the amount of farms there because they do have very, very fertile soil. Most of the crop from Australia comes from Tasmania. But if you're into hiking, definitely take a visit to Tasmania. Again, those mountains are beautiful.
It's a very good description. I wish I could have seen it myself. Now, to talk about the impact it has on people. I'm told it has a very positive impact on people. It is life down there is very nice. I'm told. Do you have any? Is there anything you want to provide us, Parker? Any comments?
Well, uh, probably a lot of jobs, farming, because again of the very, very rich soil down there, you can make very good crop, and because of the mountains, there's different elevation crops that can grow better up higher, which does contribute to the economy a lot. So job opportunities help.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, Cooper, do you have any finishing statements before we close this podcast?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the different states of Australia,
Yeah.
such as Western Australia, the Northern Territory, Southern Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, Australian Capital Territory, Victoria, and Tasmania.
All right. Yeah. I almost forgot. Australia has tons of regions. Queensland is awesome, great tourism spot as well. So I'm told. Uh, all right. So I almost forgot to mention before we end the podcast that Australia is organized into different provinces. Cooper, would you like to list off and give a little tiny brief explanation on each of these provinces?
So I don't know a whole lot about most of these provinces, but I know that New South Wales and Victoria of Australia are the more heavily populated places, along with the Australian Capital Territory. And Tasmania, as recently talked about, is very isolated. Not many people live there. Perfect fertile soil. Queensland is kind of epic. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got agricultural lands. It's got industrial lands, and then you have South Australia, Territory, and Western Australia, which is just kind of there. They have civilizations along the coastline, but it's mostly all the outback, which is just wildlands.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So we're gonna end the podcast about geography here. Tune into the next one to learn about the ecosystems in Australia and how they affect the people and everything about that. So thank you for listening and have a great day. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Down Under podcast. This podcast is named Everything Kills You. Today I'm your host, James Godfrey. I'm here with my co host, Cooper Lockman. Say hello.
Howdy.
And the questionee, Parker Lighty. Say hello.
How you doing?
So today we'll be discussing everything ecosystems. We'll be talking about the animals, the weather there, the environments, and the impact it has, and all that. So, to get a prompt start, let's talk about the very touchy topic, pollution. Now, Australia has a large amount of environmental issues, but every country does nowadays. So there's a lot of whaling. People are killing whales in the ocean. That's plummeting their population to low numbers. Irrigation and its impact on the Murray River is deteriorating it. It's taking up all the soil and all the nutrients. There's a lot of uranium mining, nuclear waste. The air quality in major cities is poor. It's awful for people. And there's tons of pesticides growing in genetically modified food there as well. What do you have to say about this, Mr. Park?
Well, yeah. Everything about that is just terrible. Humans are destroying the environment. There's nothing we can really do to stop it unless we politicians. But not only are different industries, factories making air quality worse in some urban areas, they're also cutting down old forests to make room for more of them. Therefore, there are going to be more factories making the air quality even worse. So the air quality is only going to get worse from here.
That is completely true. Mr. Cooper, do you have anything to add?
No jams.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the weather. The weather in Australia it varies a lot because climate change and stuff like that, they are very unexpected. There can be very little rainfall some days and there can be heavy rainfall others. That can lead to a lot of heat waves and it can make it bad for the people who live there. Do you have any insight on this as well, Mr. Lady?
Well, yeah, you kind of see it all in Australia. You can see a great deal of rainfall, streets being flooded, or you can see barely any, so little to the point where you could probably walk around outside and barely get wet. And there's some days that you might wear your running shorts to work because of how hot it is, or you could be wearing your jacket to work, how cold it can get. And that has a little bit to do with the tropical influenced climate. It can be hot and humid in the summer and quite warm and dry in the winter still, which is why some days you'd have to wear your jacket, or some days you might be wearing your shorts into work.
Yeah. That pretty much sums weather up. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Lockman?
The only thing I'm gonna say is the same thing that I said last episode, that Australia is kind of crazy, man. That's all I really gotta say.
Yeah, that's very true. Australia is a very unique country in its own way, and that's why it's awesome. So now to move to the next topic, we'll move to the environment itself. Ecosystems in Australia vary a lot depending on where you are. Some parts, like the outback of Australia, are very dry, while they have rainforests in Australia that can get very wet and humid. There's even nearly Arctic parts near the south. So, with that being said, do you have anything, Mr. Light, you would like to add on how it's like down there and how the different regions impact the people and what it's like to be there? It's
Well, like said in the last podcast, there aren't very many air travel. There's not much air travel in Australia, so while you're driving from place to place, you get to see a lot of ecosystems, such as the rainforest you were talking about, or the deserts. And sometimes, if you're traveling down south, maybe you're heading over to Victoria, you'll see some of the Arctic areas. And it's very beautiful to see, the vast difference of animals that live there in the ecosystems, such as the Great Barrier Reef. There are a lot of animals to look at there, such as jellyfish and stingrays. But yeah, there's just so much stuff to look at. It's very beautiful.
and how does that impact the people of the region itself?
Well, lots of tourist spots, and the people who live there, they see it a lot. So sometimes they help the tourists actually, but it's good topics to talk about at parties. If someone, they went down to Victoria and they're walking around the Arctic lands, they usually would bring it up when they're in a conversation with friends or family.
It's very intriguing and very broad. It's great. So, with that all being said and done, Mr. Cooper, is there anything you would like to add to the environment and
No, Mr. James, I have nothing.
okay. All right, then let's move on to the best part. Some say the best part of ecosystems. All of the deadly animals. There are so many things that can just kill you. It's terrifying. Uh, Such as bird-eating spiders, for example. They're spiders that literally eat birds. That's how large they are, and that's how terrifying it is. But there's also a lot of quote unquote cute animals such as koalas and some kangaroos. There's vast amounts of life down there, and that's why it's beautiful um, in its own amazing way. Now, Mr. Lady, would you like to tell us about some of the animals you saw, like some of the marsupials, for example?
Yes, there are quite a lot of things that can kill you. The box jellyfish being one of the worst ones, or even the blue-ringed octopus. They look beautiful, trust me, but if you get close to them, they'll hurt, and they will sometimes kill you. But some things will most definitely kill you, such as the saltwater crocodiles. Oh boy, I cannot tell you how many crocodiles there are on the coast. But it's made up for by, the cute animals that live on the inside. such as the wombats or the opossums. Small little animals. But yeah, mostly things that'll kill you.
Yeah, sums everything up pretty well for that. Now, as per usual, Mr. Cooper, would you like to add anything?
You only seem to have mentioned the one type of spider that eats birds, but there are several thousands different of type of spiders that eats birds, and there's just almost everything will kill you.
Yeah, there's a lot down there. It can be very overwhelming to look at, but if you look at the country as a whole, it's a much better place than just the spiders and the things that can kill you. With that being said, I think that's going to wrap up this part of the podcast. Thank you for tuning into the Down Under podcast, and have a good day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 4 of the Down Under podcast. I'm your host today, Cooper Lockman, joined with my co-host, Parker Lighty.
Hello.
And the questionee, James Godfrey. Say hi.
Hello.
And in today's episode, we will be discussing the politics of Australia. And to start off, we are going to be starting with the type of government that Australia has. I believe it is. I don't actually know what it is, James. Would you like to inform me on that?
Give me a minute.
Yeah, of course.
Where is it? It's not first.
I think it's democratic. Yeah, it's not first.
Yeah,
Representative democracy, parliamentary system, constitution.
Oh yeah, right there.
Yeah, okay, I see it now. Okay. That's why I left the pause, so it'd be easier for you to edit in.
Yeah.
Yeah, big.
All right.
Just say banana split whenever you're about to go.
3, 2, 1, banana split. Well, Cooper, in Australia they have representative democracy, the parliamentary system, and constitutional monarchy.
And with the types of governments, do you think that their political beliefs would line up with the kind of government that they have?
Well, Cooper, for their political beliefs, they have mostly democratic beliefs like we do in the country USA. It's very similar. There's very few differences between the two, and that's really it for democratic beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Parker, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, just give me.
Did you say give you a second?
3, 2, 1. Yeah, I definitely think that they relate to Americans. With their beliefs, they tend to respect the rights and liberties of the people, kind of like America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, James put it perfect.
Yeah. All right, on to the next topic of today's episode. The political parties of Australia, James. Do you know what they are?
Aren't they the Oh yeah, the Australian Labor Party, the Liberal Party of Australia, and the National Party of Australia?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Parker, do you want to talk anything about these or no?
No, there's really nothing else.
All right, well, on to the next part. How do you think the impact of their government or their government has impacted their society?
I think their government has a lot of, like, the impact is very similar to the United States again. Like, the NFA, the National Firearms Agreement, they've banned rapid fire weapons from citizens to own. They are very protective of their people, and they care a lot about them. Other than that, and yet again, it's very similar to the U.S.
Mm-hmm. And what about the local governments, James?
Well, there's about 537 local governmental councils. They act pretty much like how our governments do in the states. And again, they're very similar. It's democracy. It's a lot of it's pretty much the same as the U.S.
Hmm. And what about the responsibilities of the citizens?
Their responsibilities are pretty standard. It's behave in accordance with all the democratic beliefs, respect the rights and liberties of Australia, and follow and obey the law. Very standard concepts, just like the USA.
Hmm. Parker, is there anything you'd like to elaborate on there?
Yeah, definitely with the roles and responsibilities. They are also required to serve on jury duty if they are summoned, and uh, they were pushed by the government to vote in federal and state elections and in referenda.
Hmm. All right, guys, I think that just about wraps up today's episode of the Down Under podcast. It's been real. This is Cooper Lockman, your host, co-host Parker Lighty, and James Godfrey, your questionee. And see you next time on episode 5, which is titled "Oh Yeah, Mr. Krabs."
Hello and welcome to the Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Parker Lighty, accompanied by my co-host, James Godfrey. Say hello.
Hello.
And our questionee, Cooper Lockman.
Hello, how's it going?
All right, and on today's podcast, we are going to be talking about the economic systems of Australia. So, first off, Australia is a great economy for its size. Wouldn't you agree, Cooper?
Yes, I'd agree very much. With their very high production of iron, coal, gold, and natural gas, they have lots of ways to get money for their own economy.
All right, and along with all that, their agricultural products as well produce a lot. Yeah?
Yeah, a lot of agricultural exports like beef, wool, cotton, chickpeas, lentils, sugar, and wine are also great sources of money for them. So I don't see them going poor anytime soon.
All righto. And let's talk jobs. Let's say someone was trying to move down there. What type of jobs would they have available to them?
Well, if you're planning to move to Australia and you're looking for a job, engineering, building and construction, town planning and architecture, hospitality, retail working, temporary administration, fruit picking, and farm work are all great options.
And those pay pretty well, yeah?
Yep.
Right. Now, you said earlier that their main exports are like iron and coal, making them the most money. Can we talk a little bit more about their main products, such as that?
Well, their iron ore export gives about $66 billion a year, I should say. And coal about half that with $38 billion. And then so on it goes down, which is enough to sustain what they're importing being the most expensive, which is personal travel at $28.6 billion.
Definitely making themselves a little bit of profit there. All right, now let's talk about their gross domestic product. How does that rank up with other countries?
Well, it ranks up pretty high, and Australia has the GDP of 1.323 trillion United States dollars as of 2017.
Do you think that would go up in the time that it was last checked?
I think it probably might have gone up.
All right, and with that being said, how does the economy impact the rest of the world? Cooper? How would you say?
Well, it provides, as we've said plenty of times, all of the iron ore, coal, education, gold, and natural gases that it supplies that all around the world for many other countries. And yeah, they get a lot of imports as well, such as cars, refined petroleum, telco equipment and parts, and freight transport.
Definitely could have a big impact on the world exporting all that stuff. And that about does it for this episode of the Down Under podcast. Catch us in the next and final episode about their population. I was your host, Parker Lighty, with my co-host, James Godfrey, and our questionee, Cooper Lockman. Thanks for coming on the show today. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Parker Lighty, with my co-host, James Godfrey. Say hi.
Hello.
And our questionee of the day, Cooper Lockman.
Hello.
Today we will be talking about population, and let's jump straight into it. What is the population of Australia?
Well, the population of Australia is about 18.26 million people, and it's been increasing over the past couple years. So it's probably somewhere up in the 20 millions at this point.
Okay. Can you be a little more specific? Like, what are some of the more heavily populated provinces?
Well, in Tasmania, there are 515,000 people. Queensland has 5.071 million people. Western Australia has 2.589 million. New South Wales with 7.544 million. Victoria has 92,141. Northern Territory with 244,300. South Australia with 1.677 million. And the Australian Capital Territory with 395,790 people.
So it seems there's definitely a lot of spacing between provinces. Some heavily populated, and others not so much. Do you have anything to add, James?
I don't think I do.
And Cooper, is the population increasing or decreasing? What would you say?
Well, over the past couple of years, the population has been increasing. As I said, the population now is somewhere in the 20 millions, as it was 18.26 million.
All right. And what actually is the median age? What's the age of most of the people in Australia?
Well, the average age for most Australians is 37.3 years, so about 37 years of age.
And what's their ethnic group? What's their race?
Mostly white, but there are Asian people and African Australians, I guess they're called.
And if someone were to move there, what's the amount of people they see? What's about the population density?
Well, there's about 3 people per kilometer. There are about 3 people per square kilometer, or about 8 people per square mile.
So people are usually, kind of close.
Yeah, kind of close.
All right. Anything for you to add, James?
And yet again, I think Cooper summed it up pretty well.
And that will sum it up for the very last episode of the Down Under podcast. Thank you for tuning in to all episodes. We hope to see you in another podcast. Parker Lighty signing out with co-host James Godfrey and questionee Cooper Lockman. We'll see you in the next podcast.